The Battle of San Salvador in a brutal new phase. Rebels shoot their way into a luxury hotel, trapping foreigners, including U.S. military men. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rattle reporting. Good evening. The Salvadoran Civil War erupted again today. Rebel terror squads who'd been blasted out of most of their urban slum strongholds launched a surprise attack on the wealthiest neighborhood in the capital. Tonight, they are still holding part of the old Sheraton Hotel complex, pinning down Salvadoran army troops in the streets and at least 4 U.S. military men inside the hotel. Now, up until today, the rebels had seized ground in the slums on the northern fringe of San Salvador, the neighborhoods of Mexicano, Zacamil, Zoyapango, Ciudad Delgado. The El Salvadorian government was willing to use air power and mortar fire to drive them out of these sections of the capital city at a high cost in civilian casualties. Yesterday, the government was talking about mopping up the rebellion, but today the guerrillas struck again with new tactics. Before dawn, about 1,000 rebels moved down from the slopes of San Salvador Mountain and Volcano. They moved into the wealthiest neighborhoods of San Salvador, Escalon, with the very vulnerable old Sheraton Hotel complex where many Americans and other foreigners stay. Juan Vasquez is covering the hotel siege.
Somos prensa internacional.
The U.S. soldiers are barricaded at the end of a hallway in a part of the hotel attacked by the guerrillas. The rebels control the floors above and below the Americans.
They are very tense. They are expecting an attack in any moment. And they told me that we don't want to fight with the guerrillas.
In an interview with CBS radio newsman Bill Gasparini, one of the Americans said they are not prisoners, but they are trapped.
We are here against our will because we feel that we can't leave here safely. Once we're sure that we can leave safely, then we'll certainly leave.
A rebel leader identified as Commander Choco said they'll have to lay down their arms, then we'll talk to them. So far, the U.S. soldiers have refused. This woman is one of many guests trapped in the rebel-controlled wing of the hotel, the exact number unknown. The army is holding the main building and has moved up tanks and troops so that the guerrillas cannot escape. Today's attack brought the war into the front yard of El Salvador's wealthy for the first time. The rebels have taken up positions all over the upper-class neighborhood known as Escalon. A U.S. embassy official who lives nearby said the size of the rebel force appears significant. Rebel spokesmen claim the objective is to take the entire neighborhood. The first soldiers who tried to move in were met by snipers, automatic weapons fire, and grenades. They suffered several casualties and were pushed back. Choco, the rebel commander, said it was a new guerrilla offensive. The purpose, he said, is to see whether the armed forces are as willing to resort to the use of rocket and machine gun fire in upper-class Escalon at the risk of destroying homes and killing the innocent as they were in working-class neighborhoods. Late this afternoon, another rebel commander said the Americans had opened fire on them, and he issued an ultimatum. If the U.S. soldiers don't lay down their arms, he said, we'll attack their position. For the moment, a tense standoff continues, but the government has evacuated part of the hotel, and soldiers have taken up positions on the roof of the main building in preparation for a possible assault. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, San Salvador.
The rebels tonight said they had captured 4 American soldiers, describing them as U.S. military advisors. U.S. officials have not made it clear who these Americans are or exactly what they're doing in El Salvador. David Martin has been checking it out at the Pentagon. David, who are these American soldiers?
Well, Dan, they're not part of the 55 American trainers in El Salvador we've heard so much about over the years. These are members of a 14-man Special Forces team from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the Green Berets. They're about as well-trained and combat-ready as American soldiers get, and we now know from Juan Vasquez that some of them, at least, are armed and in control of the second floor. And as I understand it, the 4 who are being described as held by the rebels are on the 4th floor. They, too, are armed, and it's really more of a standoff than it is a hostage situation. Dan, if the rebels have the upper hand inside the hotel tonight, it's not by much.
Well, David, what about a rescue mission?
Well, I've been told that at least some elements of the Delta Hostage Rescue Force based in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, has been given an order to move into position for a possible, repeat, possible rescue mission. The preferred solution is to let the Salvadorans handle this themselves. There's one major problem confronting anybody who tries to rescue anybody inside, and that's the fact that some of these American soldiers inside the hotel are armed, so any would-be rescuers might have a hard time telling the captives and the captors apart.
Very confusing situation. Thanks, David. A spokesman for President Bush accused the rebels of taking a, quote, despicable road of violence today, and said the president would not rule out military action to protect American lives. Our State Department correspondent Bill Plant has more on the reaction. Bill?
And the administration responded today, just as it has since this rebel offensive began, renewing the charge that the FMLN is hiding behind civilians and has failed completely to gather any popular support.
This failure and their failure on the battlefield has resulted in this outrageous act of terrorism this morning. The FMLN has shown its face to the world today. They are terrorists, pure and simple.
Saying they believe the Salvadoran government of President Cristiani can handle the situation, the State Department nonetheless issued a travel warning which suggested that Americans in El Salvador may wish to consider departing the country until security conditions improve. A spokesman for the rebels in Washington suggests that won't be anytime soon.
With this government, with the attitudes that they have taken, they have put themselves out of any possibility of negotiation.
There were more angry demonstrations today protesting U.S. aid to El Salvador in the wake of the murders last week of 6 priests. Police reported 140 arrests at this gathering in San Francisco.
The crucial question in the United States is whether we should support a government that does not take sufficient action against people who kill priests and people who repress their own population.
A Senate Democrat says he thinks Congress will curtail aid to El Salvador if there's no progress before the legislators return next year.
This matter is not going to be resolved on a battlefield in El Salvador. The only way it's going to be resolved is at a bargaining table where political decisions are made.
One political decision was made as soon as this crisis began, and that's to avoid the impression left during the aborted coup in Panama that the administration was just watching from the sidelines. There have been crisis management meetings this time and vague threats of possible U.S. military options. Said one senior official, "We will not be passive." But so far, that's all they have been. Dan?
Thanks, Bill. And still to come on your CBS Evening News, correspondent Doug Tennell on a Miami murder trial that threatens violence in the streets. And Gary Reeves in a place where the mighty Missouri is just a trickle.
Mr. Khayyam, I hate shaving.
Doug, try this Remington microscreen. It shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. No other shaver makes that promise.
Smooth. Now I know why you bought the company.
The Remington microscreen.
That shredded wheat sure is nutritious. How's it taste?
Exactly how it looks, actually.
Then try Kellogg's Raisin Squares. Not just shredded wheat, but shredded wheat with real raisin in the middle.
Oh, that'll change the taste, won't it?
Yep, you can do that. Raisin Squares make shredded wheat lusciously delicious.
I definitely detect taste.
Kellogg's Raisin Squares. Shredded wheat with taste in every bite.
Taste. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
The Volvo 240 has built a reputation for surviving accidents, and we at Subaru have always been impressed by that. So we gave the new Subaru Legacy wagon unibody construction, like the Volvo 240. But unlike the 240, the Subaru Legacy is available with full-time four-wheel drive and anti-lock brakes. Because the best way to survive an accident is not to get into one.
You ever run up against a tough sinus cold? As tough as it gets, maximum strength Dristan is tougher. To sweep away congestion, pressure, and pain. And it won't make you drowsy. When you can't call in sick, call on Dristan.
The old line front of the Czechoslovakian communist state began to crack today under the reported strain of Kremlin demands for change and a mass movement for freedom that has filled the streets of the capital city of Prague for 5 nights in a row. Richard Threlkeld in Prague has tonight's report on the changing face of communism.
Those are people down there, 300,000 of them, 1/4 of all the people in Prague, watching history. Tonight, for the first time, the leading Czech dissidents, the communist regime's arch enemies, spoke openly, publicly to the Czech people about these days of protest, urging them on.
It will continue. We must win this struggle.
You can't walk the streets here without seeing petitions for something.
They want free information and the truth, to tell the truth.
You can't drive the avenues without a demonstration. Honk if you love freedom. Along all the approaches to the city square, they march for the evening rally that's now become a ritual. Students, workers, everybody demanding change.
And I want to change everything in this government, in this country.
And finally today, the demonstrators got a little of the change they've insisted upon. Prime Minister Ladislav Adamec met for an hour with a delegation that included the opposition. He promised he would not use force to stop the demonstrations, that he would not resort to martial law, and finally that he's granting one of the big demands of the protesters. He's ordered an investigation into the vicious attack by police and troops on protesters here last Friday night. Later, opposition leaders said they'd sent a letter to President Bush and Soviet President Gorbachev outlining their demands for a new government and free elections. On Czech TV tonight, the unpopular Communist Party boss, Miloš Jakeš, appealed for peaceful dialogue, even conceding more reforms are needed. These protests have clearly unnerved the Czech leadership. It has now made some concessions to treat the symptoms of this unrest, but nothing yet to alter the rigid communist orthodoxy that's the cause of it. Still, when they sang the Czech national anthem tonight, you could almost hear the solid wall of the government's resistance to reform beginning to crack. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, Prague.
In Moscow, Mikhail Gorbachev said he is not worried by the rapid pace of change in Czechoslovakia and the rest of Eastern Europe. Gorbachev said it will produce, quote, a better society. Gorbachev also presided today over the firing of Moscow Communist Party chief Lev Zakov. He's the hardliner who replaced maverick Boris Yeltsin some 2 years ago. Zakov is now being replaced by a younger party official described as a supporter of Gorbachev's reforms. A sign of the times in Germany, the Berlin Wall at the Brandenburg Gate. Today, the scene of an impromptu rock concert by the 60s group Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Good friends and good food, but my stomach aches. My party. And Mylanta 2.
Double strength Mylanta 2 with nearly double the acid neutralizing power of any leading regular strength brand.
Because my life takes Mylanta 2.
To rise above worry and uncertainty, 40 million Americans have placed their trust in the Travelers, its independent insurance agents and brokers, to help provide financial peace of mind. You're better off under the umbrella.
Every morning, they go to work. Over 10 million phone cards from U.S. Sprint. The only card that gives you 100% fiber optic sound quality and rates that are still up to 25% lower than AT&T. To get yours free without changing phone companies, call Sprint now. The phone card. In a world that works 24 hours a day, it's the hardest working card in the world.
Shoot some slices, salad shooter. Shoot some shreds, salad shooter. Shoot some salad, shoot it fast, shoot it pretty. Pretty salad shooter.
Presto Salad Shooter Slicer Shredder. Easier than a food processor. Just point and shoot slices right onto a salad. Shoot shreds right onto a pizza. Top a dessert, go a little nutty. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe. Small enough to store anywhere.
Shoot some salad, 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 salad shooter.
Now a cordless rechargeable salad shooter too from Presto.
Marilyn Harrell was officially indicted on federal criminal charges in Baltimore today in connection with the HUD mismanagement and corruption mess. Harrell is the Maryland woman dubbed Ramad HUD by some after she admitted to Congress that she took more than $5 million in HUD money, spending some on a swimming pool and allegedly giving some of it to the poor. If convicted, she faces up to 22 years in prison, a $1 million fine, plus restitution of the HUD money. A central figure in the single most expensive savings and loan failure, now costing taxpayers more than $2 billion for a bailout, took the Fifth Amendment today. Charles Keating invoked his right against self-incrimination and refused to tell congressional investigators what he knows about the collapse of the California-based Lincoln Savings and Loan or his dealings with some of the best-known names in the U.S. Senate. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer has the latest.
Keating arrived at the Capitol surrounded by a phalanx of lawyers and aides and was sworn in businesslike fashion, but it was soon apparent he had no intention of cooperating with the committee at all.
I respectfully request that pursuant to Rule 11F2-211,
under that rule, witnesses can refuse to testify in the presence of television cameras. Once the cameras were off, he simply took the Fifth Amendment and declined to testify on the grounds it might incriminate him. He departed as quickly as he had arrived, leaving in his wake a barrage of condemnations.
Charles Keating is a financiopath of obscene proportions, the Reverend Jim Baker of American Commerce.
The Senate Ethics Committee is already probing whether 5 senators, Regal of Michigan, Cranston of California, DeConcini and McCain of Arizona, and Glenn of Ohio, put improper pressure on federal banking regulators after Keating gave them huge campaign contributions. And the nation's top thrift regulator was criticized today for failing to crack down on Keating sooner, but he denied any improper pressure.
My decisions in the Lincoln case were my own. They were devoid of any political influence.
For Keating, the allegations of influence peddling are only a part of the growing list of troubles. He's the target of a federal grand jury probe and a $1.1 billion government racketeering suit. And yesterday in California, members of this Baptist church in Santa Ana joined with thousands of other small investors to sue Keating for $100 million. They claim their investments in Lincoln Savings wound up in Keating's overseas bank account.
Many little people in Southern California put their life savings into Lincoln Savings and Loan. It's our position very simply that money has gone to Swiss banks, Panamanian banks, and various different banks.
Committee members say they'll press on with their investigation whether or not Keating talks. But with all his troubles piling up, they acknowledge the odds are they'll never see him again. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
As first reported on this broadcast by CBS News law correspondent Rita Braver last night, a plea bargain deal today by a key defendant in the Weapons for Iran What Happened to the Money criminal case. But at first, federal judge Gerhard Gesell rejected the deal under which big-time international arms trader Albert Hakim and his corporation pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor, namely paying for a security fence at the home of Oliver North. The judge complained that this would not require Hakim to make any significant admissions or pay anything for restitution. However, the judge tonight accepted the plea bargain after stipulating that he would question Hakim about what indeed happened to all that money from the secret sale of U.S. missiles to Iran. And in another Iran-Contra criminal case, correspondent Braver learned tonight that the Justice Department will officially move tomorrow to block certain information needed for the trial of Joseph Fernandez, a move that could force the dismissal of the criminal case against Fernandez. He's the former CIA station chief in Costa Rica. Attorney General Richard Thornburg takes the position that the evidence would disclose government secrets.
American Express covers the world with unsurpassed service for all our card members.
Here is some cash, and your new card will be ready by noon.
Helping in ways that no one else can.
American Express, my daughter and I just had an accident.
Do you need a doctor?
It's someone who cares when you're far from home.
Don't worry, remember I used the American Express card, so it's insured.
It's a way to protect the things you buy.
It'll be okay, Mr. Davis. Stop by the hotel front desk tomorrow. You can pick up a new card.
I'm having some trouble checking into this hotel.
I can take care of it. Let me just talk to the hotel manager.
Thank you.
Day or night, around the corner or around the world, American Express is always there to provide the best personal service for all our card members. Membership has its privileges.
There are very few guarantees in medicine. But if you have arthritis pain like I do, you should know about Mediprin and the Mediprin guarantee. If 2 Mediprin don't relieve minor arthritis pain better than 2 regular aspirin, you get your money back. Strong promise, strong medicine. The medicine that concentrates the power of ibuprofen into these potent little caplets. The medicine that guarantees better relief than regular aspirin. Better arthritis pain relief. That's the Mediprin guarantee.
President Bush signed the $12 billion transportation bill into law today, including a ban on smoking aboard virtually all U.S. domestic airline flights. The smoking ban takes effect in 90 days. President Bush also signed the $286 billion defense spending bill today. It's a bill containing cuts in Mr. Bush's requested budget for Star Wars missile defense research and also less than he asked for in spending on the stealth bomber program. Was the policeman a hero or trigger happy? That's the issue facing a Miami jury looking into the fatal shooting of a motorcyclist. A shooting that touched off 3 days of rioting in which 400 people were arrested and 25 stores were burned. Doug Tennell reports.
He's a murderer! He's nothing but a murderer!
A trial that just opened here has moved Miami to the brink of ethnic violence once again.
He's a murderer!
He is William Lozano, a Miami cop of Hispanic origin who shot and killed a black motorcyclist named Clement Lloyd. The policeman claims Lloyd was trying to run him over, but prosecutors say Lozano did not fire in self-defense.
And as the motorcycle passed on his left, he fired a shot.
But in Overtown, the black neighborhood where the shooting occurred, the talk on the streets is that the court will go easy on a Hispanic officer who killed a black man. With the trial only days old, Overtown is already bracing for the verdict.
We need to take the streets and fight fire with fire and stop getting on our knees praying.
It's Overtown. You can't talk to people, man. They're not gonna listen.
They're not gonna listen.
Once they find out he out of jail, they just don't start going crazy again.
It's happened before.
Yes, and it's gonna happen again.
When a black man was beaten to death in police custody in 1980 and 4 white policemen were later acquitted, Miami's black neighborhoods erupted in rioting that claimed 18 lives. And more riots in 1984 after the shooting death of another black man by a Hispanic cop.
Well, the clear perception is that the Latins, the Cubans, are taking our jobs. The clear perception is the Cubans got everything and we got nothing.
With Miami police already expecting more rioting, Lozano's lawyers are faced with the task of trying to take race out of the court's proceedings.
Officer Lozano did not shoot his gun because he's a Hispanic. Clement Lloyd was not shot because he is black.
If convicted, William Lozano faces up to 60 years in prison on 2 counts of manslaughter. Both Lloyd and a passenger on his motorcycle died, and eyewitness accounts vary widely. The most important things in all this, the facts, are hard to determine because immediately after the shooting last January, police investigators said they were prevented from collecting evidence. A crowd had gathered around Clement Lloyd's motorcycle in Overtown, and 3 days of widespread rioting began. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Miami.
The government today reported that inflation in October took its sharpest jump since May. The Labor Department said that higher gasoline and food costs drove consumer prices up 0.5% last month. For the year so far, consumer prices are rising at an annual rate of 4.6%, just slightly higher than the inflation rate of the last 2 years.
Think I'm fit? You don't know the half of it.
Mike Garfield for Kellogg's Bran Flakes.
It takes a lot of training to get fit on the outside. But there's another Mike Garfield inside. To help keep our inside as fit as our outside, we eat only one kind of Bran Flakes. Kellogg's Bran Flakes. It's got plenty of that bran everyone's eating today. Helps you stay fit on the inside. And it tastes good.
Kellogg's Bran Flakes.
Helps keep the inside as fit as the outside.
For those considering a Toyota Camry, some revealing news. There's another 5-passenger sedan with front-wheel drive, fuel-injected engine, roomier trunk, and it's $1,200 less than the Toyota Camry. In fact, this German-engineered 1990 Volkswagen Jetta GL, including its new features, costs less than last year. So stop tearing your hair out about new car prices. It's time to think about Volkswagen again.
I don't want a few aches and pains to stop me from doing the things I truly love to do. You know, like planting a rose bush or throwing the ball with my grandson. But I do have occasional aches and pains. That's why my good friend Bufferin is there when I need it for pain relief. Bufferin, my brand of aspirin, has strong 100% aspirin. It helps me to keep doing the things I want to do.
Bufferin, so you can do the things you want to do.
In the Dakotas, there's no mistaking it. Certain days give warning that winter is on its way. And so it's natural that thoughts turn to the lazy days of summer. Except in these times, the thoughts of summer in Dakota's tourist country aren't sunny. Gary Reeves explains.
It's the fishing that lures the tourists to the lakes in the Dakota Badlands. But at Slater's Resort, there are no fish, and no people either, because there's no water.
That's just mud out there.
Water levels on the 6 lakes on the Missouri River are more than 20 feet below normal. The blossoming recreation business has been left high and dry.
Wondering what in the hell we got a boat ramp out here in the middle of North Dakota with no water on.
Slater and others say the 3-year drought is just one reason for the low lake levels. They claim the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is another, because every hour it releases millions of precious gallons of lake water to generate electricity and to keep barges downriver afloat.
I think we're just as short here as they are there. The problem is there's not enough water.
The problem on the Missouri used to be too much water, until decades of devastating floods convinced the government to tame the Big Muddy.
There are 4 dams building upstream on the Missouri. If they had been finished, this would not have happened.
When the dams on the Missouri River were first proposed, they held great promise for everybody. Flood control and barge shipping for the states downriver, irrigation, drinking water, and recreation for the Dakotas.
But the Dakotas never got their irrigation. Now anger is building as the once thriving resorts dry up.
Is it really fair to take all the advantage downstream for flood control and shipping and deprive the upper basin states completely? That's the bottom line.
When government engineers meet daily to decide how much water to release from the lakes, their bottom line is a 10-year-old manual written before lake recreation became so important.
It's listed low on the priorities, that's correct. It's listed as the last priority.
The Corps says even top priorities are suffering. Barge shipping was suspended a month early to save water. But in the tiny lake towns like Pick City, people say they need drastic changes to survive.
We solely depend on the tourism through the summer to make it through the winter. If we don't have this tourism in the summer, we won't make it through the winter.
As winter closes in, the Corps of Engineers is reviewing its rules, perhaps giving recreation higher priority. Still, the best chance for help lies not with the government, but in the clouds. Gary Reeves, CBS News, Pick City, North Dakota.
And that's part of our world tonight. Dan Rather for the CBS Evening News. See you tomorrow. Good night.
I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow, the voice behind The Little Mermaid, Disney's new animated feature. Also, Twiggy with a Thanksgiving recipe tomorrow on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS. Coming up on News Channel 5's 6 o'clock report, Interstate 40 closes down this afternoon after a leaky tanker spills hundreds of gallons of dangerous chemicals. Following fellow church members say that William Clark Duggar is a gentleman. Police say he is a murderer. An East Nashville neighborhood needed a bigger drainage ditch, but residents say they got a lot more than they wanted. These stories and the Pilgrims meet the Indians for an early holiday feast. Our 6 o'clock report is next.
Now Hormel chili and plenty more beef.